Hello and welcome to this edition of Big Fish Small Pod for July 6th, 2024. And if you are new to the Small Pod, here we like to give you all the information about the Marlins for that particular day all season long in 10 minutes or less. And as always, Big Fish Small Pod is presented by MPT College Consulting. You can check them out at mptcollegeconsulting.com. And we have a great guest here today from, of course, with us on Fish on First. He does a ton of our draft coverage. He will be at Arlington for the draft next week. Our own Mel Kiper Jr., our own Todd McShay, Hector Rodriguez. No relation, but maybe, hopefully. Hector, how you feeling? How you feeling for this draft? It's draft season.
What's up, Danny? I'm feeling good. Draft season's upon us, so whether it's football or baseball draft, I always get excited. So good to have the draft here and All-Star Game weekend. That's going to be fun. Also in Arlington.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy weekend. And for the Marlins, they have the 16th pick. We might have having a different conversation next draft. It might be a top 3 pick, but for this season, for this draft, they have the 16th overall pick. Hector, talk to us. 16th overall pick. What type of players might be available to the Marlins in that round?
Well, this year specifically, it seems to be a collegiate heavy, especially college hitters, which is, I think, what the Marlins need. So this is a good draft for the Marlins to get a high quality college bat in the middle of the first round. So looking at the draft at 16, you're going to have probably a bunch of different options. Cam Smith's going to be one, Jamie Tibbs the third, both Florida State Seminoles, Oklahoma State's Carson Bench, Kentucky's Ryan Waltzman, and you also have Wake Forest Seaver King. Those are all guys that could be options for the Marlins. And, the Marlins are going to most likely have their chance to pick a good collegiate bat. And, we'll see what's going to happen with them. Last year, I expect them to grab a collegiate bat, and they surprised everybody with the selection of Noble Meyer. While Meyer's been outstanding, it was still a surprise. But yeah, I fully expect the Marlins to take a hitter in this draft. And if they're going to take a hitter, it would most likely be from the collegiate level.
Yeah, you don't expect the Marlins to go ahead and maybe take a guy from prep ball or high school like that in terms of hitting and maybe trying to develop him, even though the hitting developing team hasn't really been the best as of late. So you strictly believe it'll be a college bat?
That's what most likely will be available unless you have a guy like Connor Griffin, who is the number 1 high school hitter in the country, falls. Then I would be surprised if he'd be available for the Marlins at 16. I think you're going to see a lot of – I think after around the 12th or the 13th pick, you're going to see a run on the college hitters. And I think it might even start with the Marlins. The Marlins might take a college hitter, and then you're going to see maybe like 3 or 4 picks in a row that teams are just going to draft college bats. It really depends what happens early on. But like I said, I think the Marlins are in good shape to draft a high-quality college batter.
Yeah, and one of the guys you mentioned, and a good amount of mocks have it as well. I know you just did your mock, and you have one more coming up. But talk to us first. Cam Smith, ACC Player of the Year, third baseman, just demolishing the baseball, and also doing it in the summer in the Cape Cod League. What is his draft profile? Because it does seem like a third baseman infielder is a perfect chance for the Marlins.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to the Marlins, Jake Berger's future position will be at first base. And I think that process will also get sped up once, if Cam Smith is their first round selection. Cam Smith, I think, is already a very good hitting prospect. Hit about 16 home runs last year and also batted .387, second team All-ACC, third team All-American. Draft probably the best draft eligible sophomore this draft class. So he's a 21-year-old who, you watch him hit, and he's 6'3", 225, and he only really hit 16 homers. So you're looking at him and you think that there's a little bit more in the tank. So maybe we haven't seen the best of Cam Smith yet. One thing that I also like about Cam Smith is his ability to drive the ball to all fields and also go the opposite field with power. He did that a bunch at FSU, which it is a short porch in right field, but he also did it in the ACC tournament where he hit about a 400-foot home run down the right field line. He's a right-handed hitter. Also, very good defensive third baseman. That's another plus. He will stick at third base, in my opinion. I think he'll be an above average to, really good defensive third baseman at the big league level. He also does have a strong arm.
Yeah, and to more of it, it seems like a position of need the Marlins really do have at this moment is that shortstop position. It seems like the future of that position is very bleak also for the Marlins, along to go with the catching position. Hector, I want you to maybe give me one guy, one shortstop, one catcher that maybe the Marlins could look at. Maybe it's early, maybe in that first round, or maybe when they have a pick, I believe in their 70th pick is their next one between catcher and shortstop.
So as far as catcher goes, in the first round, there's a guy named Walker Janek out of Sam Houston State, who I really didn't know a whole lot about going into the season, but he played so well. He grabbed a lot of people's attention. He was the winner of the Buster Posey Award, which goes to the best overall catcher in the country. And he was also the Defensive Player of the Year in Conference USA. So already you're seeing that he's a high quality catcher behind the plate. He probably manages a pitching staff really well, but the offense really made he really made a big jump. Played very well against FIU, which is why I really started to see him play because, the proximity from right down here in South Florida. I watched him play against FIU. I was very impressed with what I saw. If the Marlins do decide to go that route, you could probably also sign him for below slot value and, maybe draft a high school shortstop that was most likely going to go to college. You can try to convince him to, go to sign professionally. As far as college shortstops go, there's not a whole lot in the first round that I think that the Marlins would particularly be interested in. But one later on in the draft, which actually MLB.com had the Marlins taking him in the second round, is Josh Kuroda-Grauer. So Josh Kuroda-Grauer is the shortstop for Rutgers University, which is a program that I cover. And I've seen him. He was a freshman starter for the Scarlet Knights, and he is an absolute monster. He is a great contact hitter. He actually ended up finishing third in the nation with like a 420 batting average, during his time last season. Was a first-team All-American and a couple, publications. This is a guy that hits for average, hits at a high level, runs well, plays great defense. So he's a guy that can stick at the shortstop at the next level. Not a whole lot of power, but that is something that could be developed as he's got some room in his frame. So, that it could be a guy, Josh Kuroda-Grauer, who is a guy that wasn't even a top 100 prospect heading into the year, but has turned into, maybe a potential second round pick for a team that is really looking for a good contact hitting shortstop.
Yeah, and with the Marlins, again, having one of the best, you could say, farm systems in terms of pitching and able to develop pitchers, it seems like they most likely will go for a pitcher at some point in this draft. Are there some names where if you're in the front office, you're looking at these guys as, okay, we can get this guy, we can develop him and make him someone. He could be in our rotation, he could be in our bullpen, and just someone like that in this draft class for the Marlins to target on the pitching front?
One high school, and I'm going to go on the high school ranks this one. I did a mock draft earlier today. So after this one that I just wrote today, I got another one coming out the day of or the day before the draft. His name is Dason Hill, big 6'5", left-handed pitcher out of Texas, signed to Dallas Baptist University. So I feel like him being signed to Dallas Baptist might make him a little bit easier to sign away. So, but this is a guy that his fastball velocity has ticked up a little bit going to his senior year. He was a guy probably in the fall of his senior year was 89 to 92. Now he's more 92 to 95. Can get up to 96. 96 has good movement on the fastball. Has a great slider that generates a lot of swing and miss. High spin rate. Also possesses a curveball and a changeup. Has good feel for all four of those pitches. Is a strike thrower. Probably needs to work on a little bit on the command. What I mean by he's a strike thrower, I mean he's probably a little bit over the plate. He can get away with that at the high school level, But at the next level, that's going to be a different story. But that's a kid that I think the Marlins could take with their second round pick and maybe their competitive balance round B pick if he falls that much.
Okay. That's good. That's good for them to see how they can do it. Go more in the high school route because that's really been a strong firm with them with Noble and Thomas White. That could be a future rotation spot there in the coming years. But Hector, as we're wrapping it up, I wanted you to give me some late round gems the Marlins could potentially find. Always in the late round, you might sign a guy for 20, 30, 40, $50,000, and maybe he ends up as a rotation piece. He ends up on the roster. He ends up blowing up in the minor league system. Are there any guys like that in this draft where late round the Marlins could take a chance on?
Here's a guy that I also included in that because most likely the Marlins will take a senior, a college senior, within the first 5 to 6 rounds because it's going to be an effort to save money on their slot pool value. And when you're a senior, it's really tough to sign. It's really tough to sign for a whole lot of money. This guy is a guy that I've watched for a lot of years during my time covering the University of Florida, and his name was like almost not really mentioned a whole lot. And a lot of it had to do with because of Charlie Condon, who is the Golden Spikes Award winner. His name is Corey Collins. He's a outfielder / first baseman, mostly played first base this year for the Bulldogs, but he is a power hitting outfielder. He's about 6'4", 235 pounds. So he has that big league body. Mostly pull side. That's where he's a pull happy hitter, and that's where most of his power comes from. But you did start to see at some point this season his approach, be a little bit more advanced. Before, I think this year he actually ended up walking 56 times, and this is a guy that hit behind Charlie Condon, so they didn't really want to pitch to Condon, so they were willing to pitch to Collins, and Collins was still able to draw over double the amount of walks that he did strikeouts. He only struck out 23 times this year and walked 56. So the approach is a whole lot better. He played a lot of first this past season, but I do think he can play the corner outfield. He does have a good arm. And I think for signing him for maybe like $20,000, $30,000, he's a guy that if you can continue to develop the bat, the hit tool, and have him go the other way and also read spin better because he does have an issue with that. He hunts the fastball. Really didn't have a whole lot of success against breaking pitches. If you can do that, he'll be really good.
Perfect. Well, Hector, I have one last question to ask you before I let you go and enjoy your weekend. What do the Marlins have to do to make this a successful draft?
They need to improve their offense and their farm system. Their farm system is really depleted in general, but mostly with hitters. I think drafting a guy like Cam Smith would immediately help. I think he's a guy that can be a top 100 prospect and also be a contributor at the big league level. There's a couple other guys that I'm really interested in. I will have my top 5 board where you're going to see a lot of SEC, ACC players. And if you watch the College World Series, it was all SEC, ACC. Those are most of the best players are. So you're going to see a lot of SEC, ACC players mentioned on my list. And it's for very good reasons because those programs have the best players, have the best pitchers, and they play the best competition. So it's there's a more likely chance that they develop into good major leaguers, because of the experience that they have against high quality pitching and against high quality programs. So yeah, you'll notice I'm going to say right now, maybe 4 out of the 5 come from an SEC or ACC program.
Ooh, all right, let's do it. But Hector, as always, great having you on. All right, enjoy your trips, enjoy Arlington, enjoy everything. We'll have you for our draft stream. Hopefully you can call in, and maybe hopefully if they do take someone like Cam Smith or Seaver King, they are there in the green room, so you can go ahead and grab a couple words with them. But Hector, always appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on.